Good morning. Good morning. This is Paula Ray Johnson of the Linda Ray team. We have a special guest today that saved my clients big time. And I'd like to introduce him. His name is Brian. Hey, Brian, come on in.
Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Brian. I work for Total House Inspection. We're a group of people who service many areas, and we take a lot of pride in the work that we do to help our clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Brian, what kind of things do you do during inspection that would really stand out to help save a homeowner?
Well, mainly we're looking at the foundation of the home. So we're looking at the big picture things like the structure of the home. We're looking in the attics and the basements. And I mean, we look at everything, but we're just really looking at the safety for our clients when it comes to them purchasing a home and them feeling comfortable when they get in the home.
So what is a buyer? Maybe they haven't had an inspection in a long time, or maybe they've had an inspection recently or just not ever had one. What should they expect when you walk in the door? What exactly, share us the process of like the walkthrough of what happens when you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do get to the home 30 minutes early because we do like to do the outside and the roof and potentially the garage, depending on where it's at, just so that we can save time for our clients. And then once that time frame hits, when we start our inspections, we greet ourselves to the client and the realtor if we haven't met them yet, and we really explain everything we do. So we enter the home, we take a bunch of pictures of the home, we label everything in our program, and then we pretty much go around testing windows, electrical units, looking at the walls, the floors, the ceilings. We're looking for cracks, we're looking for dents, we're looking for, drainage that doesn't drain properly in the bathrooms or things like that. So we anything really we can get our hands on that we can see, we're gonna test out.
So let's talk about the exterior of the home real quick. So we talk about gutters, right?
Mhm.
You're checking the gutters. What's the process with a roof? Let's talk about that area for a second.
So roofs, so basically what we're gonna do is if we can get on the roof, we're gonna put our ladder up there, we're gonna walk it. We're gonna look for everything that we can see. We're gonna look for exposed nails. We're gonna see how many layers of shingles there are, what kind of shingles there are, if there's any damage, if there's any uneven areas too. So really with the extensive knowledge that we have and training we have, we're able to pinpoint and look at every little thing on that roof to make sure that it's appropriately aged and looks good for our clients.
So if a house doesn't have gutters, what do you suggest at that point? What is your protocol on that?
So that's awesome. You just bring that up because I just had two inspections last week that didn't have gutters on the roofs. The main issue with a home, inside and outside, is always water. So with there being no gutters, that water is going to come straight down and it's going to hit the foundation of the home. So with there not being gutters, we always recommend that gutters be put on and to make sure the extensions from the downspouts are at least 3 to 4 feet away from the home to really keep that water away from that home and causing any type of damage.
So that's kind of what I would think is like one of your 101 as the homeowner, previous or new, should know. That would be one of my first things I would check off my boxes. Does it have gutters? And if not, you need to get gutters to
Yeah.
protect the foundation of your home, right?
Correct. That's 100% correct. Yes.
What about even when you suggest outside, when you get up to like the brickwork, should it be forced away from the house and the grading situation? What can you share a little bit on that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So grading goal, it ties in with the gutters, right? Because you want that water away, like I said earlier. And I would say 80 to 90% of the water that could happen in your foundation, your basements, and your crawl spaces comes from your grading being too low by the home or not having downspouts. So when you grade up against the building, you want to make sure you use dirt. If you use something like wood chips right away or even pea stone, that water will go straight through it and go into the foundation. Water will naturally absorb into the dirt and the dirt will flow that away from the home. So if you're going to do any type of landscaping or if you notice that there are some low spots, add that dirt first and then you can put your wood chips or your stones or whatever you guys like to put on them.
Okay, that's great. So we
Yeah.
talked about the roof. Now let's talk about the basement. Let's talk about all the fun stuff. My theory is when I show a house, first thing I want to do is we go through the first floor and I go, okay, before we go any further, let's go check out the basement. What things do we need to look for as a consumer in the basement to make sure we're getting a great purchase?
Yeah, so basements, they can be a little tricky, but a lot of people now are just spraying the top of their basements, like spray paint, or paint. So it's exposed, everything you can see. So when you go into a basement, you kind of want to look in areas where your plumbing is. You want to see if there's any mold, any water damage on the framing, the plywood, or even the dimensional lumber that holds up the home. So you want to look in those areas, and then you want to pay attention to the walls too. So you want to see if there's any stainage, any what we call efflorescence, which is looks almost like mold, but it's not really mold. It's just naturally absorbed water into the foundation itself, which is very, very common and typical. But yeah, that's basically what you want to look for. Keep an eye out for those watermarks, things like that.
Okay, so what do we, let's say, let's go to a little further deep in the basement. We looking at sump pumps, electrical. Tell me what else you look at when you're in the basement for during the inspection.
So typically in the basement, you hit the nail on the head. Some pumps for making sure there's backup, some pumps on them. Typically, in Michigan, there is that water. So we recommend having that backup just because in case the power goes out for whatever reason, you want that sump pump still to work to protect your home. We're also looking at electrical panels because those are typically in the basement, making sure your wiring is done correctly and properly. And then anything else that could be secured to the walls or even the flooring to make sure there's no cracking or big uneven levelness. So
Okay, let's talk about the furnace. What is something you recommend during the furnace over the life of me either living there or maybe even getting ready to sell my home? What would you suggest I do?
So furnaces are great. They keep our house warm. They add humidity in using a humidifier attached to them, and they also have what we call the A coil sitting on top that makes the house cool. So a lot of times you get into these homes and there might be older furnaces. So with the older furnaces, we just recommend using the what we call non-expensive or cheaper filters. So if you think about it, your furnace is pulling that air in, condensing it, heating it, cooling it, whatever it has to do, and then releasing it into the rest of your home. So when you use those cheaper filters, that film is a little thinner, so it's easier on your furnace to pull that air through. If you have cats, dogs, we recommend replace them every 30 days. If it's just you in the home, you can go every 60 days. It just adds a little more life to your furnace. And then also with that, we recommend every other year or so to get what we call tune-up. So it's always good when you move into a home to you know, ask around for your neighbors, see what kind of HVAC person they use, heating and cooling guy, and have them come out, look at your furnace, look at your AC, do it all at once. That way you can bundle that package, into a cheaper price, and they'll, let you know how to, keep it nice and clean or what you can do to make it last a little longer.
Okay, so let's talk about that. We talked about the electrical panel, the sump pump, the basement being dry. What happens when because not everybody knows what B-dry is or a waterproofing system. Can you explain what that looks like so people are aware of what to look for with that as well?
Yeah, so even in newer home builds now, you have to even have, I believe it's 4 foot from the frost line has to be insulated.
Yeah.
So when you walk into a basement, you might be a little, curious as to what the stuff on the wall is. A lot of it is to keep that heat in your home. It's more energy efficient. In crawl spaces and even in basements too, sometimes you'll find this waterproofing system, which almost looks like a plastic film that goes up on your wall. Crawl spaces, it's very, very typical. And a lot of times they don't have them up on the wall and then taped. So it's good to have that moisture barrier down because then it keeps that water and all that moisture from coming up. So it's just a little more protection for your home.
Okay, so if you see, and I'm going to use B-dry because the only Michigan basement waterproofing, whatever. When you see that, I'm going to call it like a wide piece on the bottom, or maybe this is the flooring. You can see there's all the way around the cement piece that has been dug up. Can you explain to me what that process is and why they did that, just so people know?
Absolutely. So when you go into a basement and the floor isn't finished, you might notice that, like Paula was saying, that some of your flooring, maybe about 6 inches or so, the cement looks newer. So what that is they've broken that cement line and they put what they call drain tile in, which is like a black tube, and that goes to the perimeter of your home. And a lot of times it connects into your sump pump. So as that water, remember we talked about the grading earlier, as that water comes down, that drain tile, that pipe, it will naturally go into that pipe, and then that pipe is sloped towards your sump pump. So the water goes in your sump pump, saving your basement a little more from that water intrusion from the outside.
Perfect. So we talked about the basement, keeping it dry and how to look for. I will say 80% of my customers have no idea what I'm talking about when I show them that. So it's kind of good that we explain it so we can share this video with them. So we've talked about the roof. We've talked about the basement. We've talked a little bit about electrical. What about insulation in the roof? How important is it in venting? Can we talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely, yeah. So insulation is very important for a home. It keeps it cold when it's cold inside, keeps it hot when it's hot inside. You don't want that fluctuation going into your attic and really dispersing that air that you want to keep in your home. So in the attic, you'll notice that sometimes there's that fiberglass batting which looks pink, and then there's like a paper filament that's on it. So
Mhm.
you want to keep that in there. A lot of people now are doing what we call blown-in insulation. So they're running a machine or they're paying a company to come in, and it's basically the same material, and then they're spraying the whole attic with it, and that just keeps that air in your home cool or warm. Now, in the attic itself, you'll have vents. You'll have fixed roof vents, which look like little black squares on your roof. You'll have soffit vents, which, if you look up where your siding meets the overhang of your roof, there'd be little slits for that air to come through there, which is great, which is fantastic, which is what you want, because you want that flow of air. You don't want to get stagnant in there. You want that a good airflow through your attic.
So okay, let's just say we're looking at a house, because I usually used to be what, every 3 feet a vent, or is it 6 feet? Was used to be
It
6 feet.
depends. Yeah, it depends on how big the roof
Okay,
is.
so now we've got baffling that goes all the way across the ridges. You can see it through a lot of houses. I just want to really educate people. So when you look, first thing I say, and I walk up to the house, I go, look up, look for your venting,
Mhm.
because warm and cool makes better bills.
Yes, it does.
So when you see that, you see that ridge, and then some of the older homes will have it 6 feet, 3 feet, whatever.
Mhm.
So that's such an important factor. Do you ever recommend putting those fans in? I've had a lot of roofing companies say put a fan in because it would make the shingles last longer. Is that true or false?
It is. It helps out. To be honest, I don't know how much it helps out. I've seen them used more often now in the newer builds, and
Mhm.
you see them in the bigger homes, like the attics where you walk in, you can actually stand all the way up in.
Okay.
Um, so I've seen those used. Those are also a very good alternative to having those, like I was talking about, those big square roof vents. It just helps vent more air out, especially if you've got, like I said, more room in that attic.
Okay. And let's talk about chimneys now, because I'm trying to give everybody a full spectrum of what we look at and what is important to look at. Physically, when you're standing outside, what are we looking for to make sure it's a good outside frame of the chimney? And then we'll talk about the interior of the chimney.
Yeah, so the main thing we're looking for, the very first thing I'm gonna look for is if there's a rain cap. So on the top of the chimney, you have these two little vents, or sometimes just one. A lot of
Mhm.
time it's just this little square that's on top, but you want to make sure that it has a cap on it. That'll keep the rain from coming out, debris from falling in, critters from going in there and causing problems. And then also what we're looking for is the same with things of a brick home, the mortar that's around it. You want to make sure that the mortar is solid. Um, as well as your crown. So the mortar comes up, and then your crown is just that cement that's on the base of it. You want to make sure that that crown is sloped okay and not cracked, because if there's cracking in there, again, it's that water coming in, that moisture intrusion, which we talk about we don't want. So you want to,
Mhm.
that's what I'm looking for with chimneys, is making sure all that is just in good condition. And it's very common some of that stuff cracks. It's just with the age of the home. So typically it's just the regular maintenance on the home.
Okay. So talk about the interior of the fireplace, so I feel safe enough to burn a fire in there. What should a consumer look for that with that?
Okay, that's a great question, because a lot of times you go into a home and you say, "Oh, cool, I got this fireplace." So when we open the fireplace, we want to make sure first off that there's screens and that there's protection around the hole. So we open those, and then inside you have a damper which opens when you want the fire to be going and closes when you want that fire to stop. So we want to make sure that works properly. Now that goes right along with the rain cap, because that your flue is what's in the middle. And if debris and everything gets in there, we open that damper, you don't want all that debris
Um,
coming in. And we just recommend all the time too, if you have a wood burning fireplace, just call that fireplace guy, have it serviced. You never know what people are burning before you own that home.
right. So a chimney sweep, just to make sure it's safe before
Yeah,
you do the fire.
absolutely.
So let's see, we talked about the basement, electrical, we've talked about the roof, the safetiness of insulation and how important it is. Hey, insulation, how much are they recommending today? How thick of a
Well,
insulation for the attic?
anywhere between 8 and 12 inches. And a lot of time when you get insulation done on a newer home, or if you get that spray insulation we're talking about, and you go in the attic, you can actually see sometimes they'll stick like looks like a paper ruler, and it's got the inches marked on it. That way you can clearly see it. So a lot of companies are using that procedure, but a lot of time they're not. So we just take our tape measure up there and just make sure that it's enough.
I know we had additional put in ours about 2 or 3 years ago, and my goodness, it made such a huge difference on the heat bill. I mean, like half. It was incredible. So the maintenance on the home, not just for selling or buying, is really a good rule for a homeowner to really like be educated. So let's talk about that for a minute. So I know you said to one of my clients the other day, if you have more questions, even after the fact, after you did the inspection, like what to do or how to do it, or just to recap what you said, you let them call you and you kind of walk them through the process again, or kind of help them out with a question that they have. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. First and foremost, our clients are who we want to protect, and we when we tell them things like that, when we reach out to them and tell them, look, if you have questions when you get the report, feel free to call us. It's not just us saying that. We want that connection with our clients. We want to make sure they're safe. We want to make sure that they know what they're doing throughout their process, because buying a home is scary, it's stressful, it's very nerve-wracking. So you want that ease. It's one less thing on your shoulders. And everybody in my office, we're all pretty personable. And we just, like I said in the beginning, we take pride in what we do. And we're really there for our clients. We're not just saying it.
Right. It's a trust bond. We're the same way. It's a trust bond. So you have the same repeat clients, or they refer people to you because they feel very safe. I know my one particular buyer, he has high praise for you. He was like, I would never do a home inspection, and I'll let everybody I know not to ever do one without him. And that was pretty remarkable. That's the best kudos you could have ever gotten. Because he really felt you saved him a lot. Why don't we talk about that real briefly? We do multiple things, and you've been doing this for quite a while. So, I mean, you really do care about your client. And I saw that through and through when you happen to work with the one particular I'm talking about. No names mentioned. We found a great home. We found a great home for him. Can you just share a little bit the surprise that we kind of found, which we were all surprised, and how you handled it?
Yeah. So the incident you're talking about, it was on the second level of the home. So we start out on the first level, and I was going through my inspection, and then it was a bungalow. So I get up in the bungalow, and the attic is exposed. I can clearly see through it. So I shine my flashlight in there, and I can clearly see charring. I can clearly see smoke damage. So at some point there was a fire in that attic. So immediately at that point, you think safety for your client. You think,
Mhm.
you know, do you finish the report? Do how do you approach this situation? So in this particular situation, I actually went to you, Paula, first, and disclosed what I found. And then I asked you how you wanted to proceed. If you wanted to talk to the client by yourself, if you wanted to bring him with me. So we talked to the client. The client said that continue with the report, but if we find another thing to we're most likely going to stop. So immediately I think, okay, I've seen one little area of the attic, and there's obviously charring, obviously smoke damage. I've got to check the sides of this bungalow to make sure that it didn't go any further than what I can see. And sadly, upon going into the attic, there was more smoke and more charring. So,
And which, by the way, was not put on the disclosures, no knowledge to us at all. And I kind of vet myself, I'm not an inspector, I'll never claim to be one, but I pretend I'm one, okay? And I look for all these great things. I've been very educated by all these wonderful inspectors we've used. And so you kind of like know what to look for so you don't waste your client's time and money. But this was a surprise for all of us. And sad to say is, we bank on those disclosures. So when you fill out those disclosures, truth will set you free, man. Put it out there. Put it out there, because they're going to find out through the insurance company or your inspector, or then you just kind of put a bad strike against the house because pending, not pending, that kind of thing. And if you are an agent, you really want to guard your client all the way around. And we were guarding our buyer at that point. So I give you highlight kudos big time for saving him, because I can't even imagine as a first time buyer walking into that kind of a situation and finding out later there had already been a claim on the house and they had put a new roof on, but they did not do the interior damage, which to me, if it's not a good structural on there, why would you fix the top of the roof? I don't know. We never got a straight answer out of that situation, but I am so grateful and thankful that you are the one that found it.
yeah, even with that client, you really want to get more personal with that client too, because it is the client's first home. It's the client's first purchase, and you don't want that's already a headache for them. They're already nervous, so you don't want them going into a situation where it's like, oh no, I got to deal with this now after purchasing it. So you really, and it would have been anybody else on my team that would have found that too, but I'm glad we did.
Oh, I just had such respect for you for being so honest, and the way you handled it was really sweet. You know, he called me aside and then you let me make the decision, which I appreciated that because I just thought, well, you know what, let's just have you present it to my buyer because you are the inspector, you are the knowledgeable one. And I thought you could explain it better than I. And like I said, you know, to my client, hey, there's a little problem and but I'd like to address it with you so you know exactly and you can make that call because ultimately the buyer makes the call.
Right. Yeah.
And so we obviously proceeded to stop the inspection. I thank you for that. And just like FYI, even far as that goes, sellers, beware, beware. It is so much easier for the inspector to do his job or the agent to do their job or the buyer to really have freedom to look through your house. Don't be home. And that's a huge one with me is don't be in the house because that makes such a big difference because you do want to have freedom to talk, right? I mean, isn't that the whole point of them hiring you?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm contractually obligated to talk to the client, and if it happens that the seller is home, we got to be a little stern and let them know that the buyer is the one who paid us. The buyer is the one who's going to get the report. The buyer is the one that's going to get all the information on the inspection.
Uh, you know what? I mean, that's really good. So let's just do a recap. We've talked about the basement, the roof. So we've talked about the electrical. Do we leave anything out? Let's go to the garage. What do we look for in a garage?
So the garage is great, right? It's where we all keep all cool cars and all of our little gadgets. So the garage is great. When we get into a garage, we're making sure that it's first and foremost safe because that garage door can be heavy. And if you've got little ones walking around, you want to make sure that there are the eye sensors. So the eye sensors are on both sides of those little door frames, and you want to make sure that they're in proper position. You don't want them too high, you don't want them too low. If they're too high, a little dog can get underneath there, a cat can get underneath there, and potentially if they're high enough, a little kid can get underneath there because those doors are heavy. So we're testing those out. We're also making sure that there's water damage to the walls, water damage to the rafters, the ceiling, because a lot of times it's drywalled, and then a lot of times too there's an attic access right there that we can go up there and we can check the separate access or the separate attic from the home itself.
So do you think we covered the whole house yet? Do you think we educated them enough? Or is there anything I left out?
I hope so. My number's up here. Oh, this side. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can feel free to give me a call.
So how do they make appointments with you if they decide they're looking for an inspector for either a pre-inspection or a full inspection? Why don't we talk about pre-inspections real quick before we go any further?
Yeah, pre-inspections are great. You can get somebody in the home. We do a little quick walkthrough and give you little tips before you sell your home and they get another inspector in. So little things like GFCIs or taping and mudding on drywall, or just the little home maintenance stuff that would really help out, and especially the gutters. I mean, put some extensions on your gutters. That's a huge thing that every inspector is going to catch. So.
Right. So we really believe in pre-inspections and because it saves our clients time and money, meaning you can rectify the situation, still put it on disclosure, but rectify it. Because what you could do yourself would save a lot of time and effort and money to make sure it's done properly and also might cost you a deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's even good for the buyers too, because if you're being honest with the seller, that's a huge thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my friend, thank you for saving my client. Thank you for being such a great inspector. Can you share with me real quickly, again, how do they reach you? I can see it up there, but what's your phone number direct?
The phone number direct to our office is 248-550-9492. You'll get our call center, and then you can actually suggest me when you're talking to the call center, and they'll set you up with an appointment. We have openings from 8 to 11:30, 12:30 to 3:30, and 4:30 to 7. So any of those 3 time slots, we're more than welcome to help you out. And then if you can't get with me, like I said, my team is very knowledgeable. We're all taught around the same way, so they'll be able to help you guys out too.
How long does it take if I called or looked online today? How long before you think I would get an appointment? Is this something really hard to get into? Do you think I could do it in a couple days?
It's super simple, very easy process. And like I said, if you can't get with me, there's always somebody open that'll be able to help you out. Usually within, I would say probably 2 to 3 days, sometimes 4. But if it's something that's urgent, we can always find something for that client.
Listen, I found 2 other things on my list. Let me talk about real quick before we sign off here.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Sewer scope. We didn't talk about the sewer scope.
Oh. Yeah, sewer scopes are great. Sewer scopes really help out and really it's that extra little worry on your shoulders that you're worried about with the sewer. So when we do the sewer scopes, each one of my team actually has a video sewer scope. So when we do the inspection, when we're all done, we bring the client down to where we find the main clean out and we run our scope through there. And we're looking for damages to the piping, what kind of piping it is, and if there's any debris or any buildup on the pipe itself. And a lot of times we're lucky enough to get to the main sewer so that we can give you a length of how long your sewer is until it meets the main sewer.
Perfect. Because that, my friend, costs a lot of money.
It
And when
doesn't.
you're open for negotiation during this inspection period. Okay, so then the last one is, we didn't talk about radon. What would we do if you find radon in the house? Walk me through the process of how you do the test up to how you'd fix it.
Yeah, so radon, it's one of those weird things where it's natural occurring gas. As the ground shifts, gas come up, obviously, and a lot of times in the basements or in the crawl spaces, you might have a high level of radon. The only way to find that out, because there's no smell, no taste to it, is to use one of our radon machines. So we have a couple different types. We have canisters, which we hang in an area and they stay there for 48 hours, or we have what we call our breeze machines, which they detect the radon and then they'll send out an email once they get the review. Now, upon finding the results, if that radon level is high, what they put in is called a mitigation system. Now, the mitigation system would go into a sealed area in the floor. Sometimes they use a sump pump if there's one already there. If there's not, obviously they just make that hole, put the basin in there, and they create it that way. And then a PVC piping will come up, and then there'll be a gauge and a fan in there, and then that goes out of your exterior, goes to the exterior of your home. And what that does is that it detects that radon. Now, if the radon level gets high, that fan kicks on and it will exhaust that air out into the exterior of your home, saving you from the inside of having that radon gas build up.
Perfect. I think we covered from the roof to the basement, exterior, outside. I don't think we left a spot out. I appreciate your time. And I hope that if anybody is thinking about buying a home or just even doing an inspection for your existing home, they reach out and give you a call. Thanks again for your time. We appreciate it. And thanks so much for taking good care of my clients. We really appreciate you.
Thank you, Paul. I really, really appreciate it.
All right, great. Thanks.
Bye now.